In the last video, we just converted our class app into a function and took all of what's known as JSX here, all of this JSX from the class app return statement and put it into this function return statement. Now, under the hood, behind the scenes, what React is actually doing when you return all of this JSX is it's calling this other function called, well, it's react.createElement div. And that will create a div here, and it will pass some information saying the class name is app and stuff like that. All of the information about the app. It'll also have a children key holding all of the children that come inside this div. And so what React is actually doing, I think that's everything, right? Did I mess this up somewhere? Maybe. Oh yeah, right there. So what React is actually doing is it's calling this react.createElement for each of these JSX HTML elements that we put inside the app function. And so what you'll see is that a lot of this is calling react.createElement, react.createElement, react.createElement. If you actually were to see what happens when you build the public version or your distributed version of your React app, it's going to call this react.createElement function a lot. All this technical stuff here, you can actually ignore this. This doesn't matter. But just letting you know what's actually happening when you create React apps is React is doing a bunch of cool magical stuff underneath the hood. But instead, they give us this nice abstraction called JSX. And JSX allows us to write what looks like HTML inside of our functions. And so we just write regular JavaScript functions that return HTML. Now, this might not seem powerful at the moment, but what it really allows us to do is just write JavaScript all the time and build cool apps that do things that are really predictable. And so, what can we do with it? Well, let's start looking at how we can use the React style of building apps to make things that are pretty cool. And actually, you know what? To do that, I'm going to get rid of everything that's inside this return statement. I'm just going to delete it all. We don't really need any of this because this is what came with the app to begin with. Let's just return a normal div, just like that. Just a div, and let's save it, and we're going to watch our whole app disappear. Don't get sad, just know that this is what happens. So, bam, save. Cool. So now our app should have nothing, and it does. There's nothing there, and you'll notice that the second we save, it updates our app for us. So we don't need to keep saving, refreshing, all this cool stuff. The development server that comes with Create React App takes care of everything for us. I think it's really nice. It makes the whole process a lot easier. And we have this function, this app function here that is being rendered in our index.js. It is the whole app right there. So it is the main thing that gets rendered into the root element in our index.html file here. So we can actually, another cool thing we can do is we can write other functions for different parts of our app and then put them inside this function here. So let's leave this at class name equals app. Let's leave that because that's nice, right? No reason not to. And let's go down here and let's write another function. This time let's write a navbar function. And this navbar function is also going to return some JSX, just like everything else. Let's give it also a class name, div. Class name equals app dash dash navbar. So we can differentiate these easily. And let's go ahead and put the name of our app that we're going to put in here. And we're going to build a little coffee shop, like I said before. So let's call it coffee shop. Let's be really creative and call it coffee shop. And let's save and refresh. We don't need to refresh. Oh yeah, notice how I wrote this function here, but nothing happened because I didn't actually put it inside the app itself. So to do this, and this is another cool thing, every time you write a function like this, it becomes a component. And so we call this a pure functional component because all it is a function that returns some JSX. And so we can come in here and we can call that component just like this, save it, and now our navbar is placed inside of our app. And boom, look at that. So we can write a bunch of different functions, each one representing a different part of our page, and then use them inside the return statement of our app as separate components. This is really, really powerful, and it's something that almost, that blew me away the first time I totally understand how useful it can be. And so we're going to do this a bunch. We're going to write a bunch of stuff here. In fact, let's make a couple more components. What are some other things you might think we need? Cool. Yep. Okay. Let's make a sidebar. Or you want a footer first? Okay, footer. You know what? Let's just write function footer. That's all we're gonna do here. What other things should we have? You said sidebar. Cool. 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 Okay. And let's just call this a main. Yeah. I mean, you can call it, since we already have the name for app up here, let's just call this one main. Is that cool? So we'll just say function main, like so. And in doing this, we can actually just go out and flesh them out. Like what does each one need? Yep. Each one needs to return some JSX. That's right. So we'll return another div for each of these. And I'll give this one a class name of app-main. Cool. And what do you think we're gonna put for this one? Actually, you know what? I'm gonna pause this right here. I want you guys to do the next two. Get used to doing this and I'm gonna put a little H2 in here. So now you guys go ahead and do it. Okay, seems like everyone's got the hang of this. Every one of you did a pretty good job with this. Some of you jumped the gun and already did the next part that I was gonna show you, but that's fine. If you understand it, so be it. Like, I'm not gonna get mad at you. Yeah, I ain't mad at you. So div class name, what do I put here? App -- sidebar, cool. And then H2 that says sidebar. Yep, I like it. Same thing here. I'm actually gonna make this a little snazzier. Oops, got to return. I'm gonna make this a little snazzier than the other ones. What should I put in this guy? You know what? Yeah, I think I know what to do. Let's head in here and say class name equals app -- footer like the others, but then let's throw something nice in here. Let's call this one an H5, and let's give it a copyright symbol. 2018 Coffee Shop Incorporated, because we incorporated our company. We own all the coffee shops in the world. That's right. Pretty cool, right? I'm proud of us. And so we have 3 components here, and some of the things that you guys already jumped the gun and did, which is fine, is once you wrote all these functions, you just threw them in the app. And I think that's exactly what you should do. You should go to your app and you should say, cool, app should also have, besides the nav bar, it should have the sidebar. It should also have the main. And it should also have the footer. And if you save this and you check out your app, you'll see we now have a coffee shop with a sidebar that's not on the side, with a main that's right in the middle, and with a nice little copyright for our company. And so this is pretty cool. And this is very similar to what partials are in other templating engines. And it's a very powerful concept. It's something that I think, it's what drew me to React in the first place, is you can write a component and then use it all over the place. And it just makes your life so much easier. And so we've written a bunch of functions in this app.js file, which is actually not really what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to make a separate file for the main, a separate file for the sidebar, a separate file for the footer, etc., etc. And you would call it footer.js, main.js, sidebar.js, etc. But we're not going to do that for now. And the reason why is just because having it all in the same file will just help you understand the whole process, and then we'll go up and clean the whole thing up later on. So writing custom components like this, it makes your code really predictable and really maintainable. So if you write a navbar, you know exactly what's going on in the navbar. You don't have to write your JavaScript somewhere else, come back to your navbar, see what it's doing, go back to the JavaScript, find the place that matches, the function that matches what's supposed to happen in the navbar. It's just all right here. And I really like that. And so, by the way, I know that some of you were asking this question before. When you nest components here, when you use custom components, you need to make sure that each one has this closing slash. Even though it's a single component, it's very similar to how you might write an image tag like this. Everything in JSX must have a closing tag. So you can't do this, and you can't do this. So these tags that usually close themselves, you should always add a closing tag to them. Otherwise, React will complain, and you don't want that. And so that's about it for now. You know, this is starting to look pretty good. We see our coffee shop with almost no style displayed, but we're going to use CSS Grid to make it look nicer. But I think this is enough for this video. and we'll do the rest of it in the next one.